Hey, it is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question that's been very popular, and so I might as well as address it and that is to talk about the female psychopath and how they can switch from so hot to so cold. How can they switch to be from one direction, so being, so infatuated in love, things going swimmingly, sailingly, hunky dory, we're in cloud 57, and then all of a sudden, next thing you've maybe exposed this female psychopath for what is going on. You're seeing, a forest for a forest. You're seeing a tree for the trees, but yet you can't quite, you're oftentimes in a shock and oftentimes like a deer in a headlight, and how to process and make sense of a female psychopath when you expose them. And how can they flip from such radical and extremes. And so that it's very important to understand, when we're talking about a female psychopath and the love bombing stage, they will have and use to their advantage many of their tools. The predatory stare, the predatory gaze, which a lot of people feel is very welcoming, inviting, come hither. They feel very calm all of a sudden when they get their eye contact, almost like they've been, inside start tingling or start buzzing or start feeling aroused or fascinated or glued in, like transfixed. So there's usually this sort of energetic glue. I guess it's more like a super glue, just sort of appeal that they have. Like it's a magnetic charge that they seem to sort of have this draw where it's like when they walk in the room, everybody, hush up and turn your head. A female psychopath is around. They sort of, unspokenly sort of command attention or, develop that expectation. You should, greet me with, a salute is basically, what they're like, basically putting out there. Their vibes, if you will, and their vibes can be very, very telepathic. I would say more so than the usual people. Peace and harmony. That sounds really weird. What do you mean? Well, if you have worked with and work closely with a number of psychopaths, as I have, and been approached by these people, yes, I do get a lot of approaches. But anyway, so what's to understand is that they, will sort of they're very conscious of a vibe that they put out. That's kind of their apparatus moderandi, or motor of mode of operation. This is business as usual for them to put out a vibe. They don't just go outside to enjoy the day and hold hands and skip to my loot. They're going out there for a specific intention, and that oftentimes is to get something that they want, to forlay their boredom. They could be very promiscuous, so they might be very promiscuous. They might have that as an outlet going on, or they might just be trying to climb a ladder, or climb a ladder in a family, or in your relationship. Being very parasitic in nature. But it's to understand that sort of in the beginning, that sort of heat or that attraction might feel like very, very complete, very magnanimous, very highly attractive, and I would say another word for it is magnetic. You can say maybe a movie star has sex appeal, glamour. They're elegant. They're smooth as silk. He's, rugged and rough. He's a man's man. He's built to last. Whatever you might say about a guy, but or a gentleman, of this sort of demeanor, because a psychopath, they want to put a vibe out there by, if they want to go unnoticed, then that is a whole different story. But definitely when they want something, they're going to put a vibe, basically to communicate out there. So they sort of have this telepathic way. because you have to understand what the female psychopath, they don't have a conscience, so they don't really have regret. They don't have remorse. They don't feel ever that they've really sort of done anything wrong. Like when you feel that you have done something wrong, oh, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that to this person. That was harmful to them that I did this, and then owning up to it. Hey, I'm sorry, that was wrong. Like they don't feel that, slipping out in the middle of the night and then making it look like something is in their bed. Changing pictures around. They've got pictures of you and your family. Next thing you know, when they visit, they've got someone else. It's them and their family. They do, picture change arounds. Personality change arounds. They do just sort of the predatory stare for different reasons, but it's very just sort of in the beginning in the love bombing, it can be very sort of magnetic. So for a lot of these people who are female psychopathic, they might have a magnetic way about them where it's just like you can't help yourself. It's like one of these sort of, I'm helplessly devoted, I'm helplessly enamored. It's just, and a lot of men go, wow, that's awesome. Like it's this great feeling, so they might get a lot of rise out of that and then feel that they've met this woman who's just a peach of a feather of a, just their, satisfies their every desire even better than they could have imagined. I mean, they have these sort of, feelings of being very attracted. The female psychopath, because of the wiring in their brain and the way of their amygdala is working, they don't really have a fear. They're not really hindered and held back. So they can be very outrageous, very, very seductive in the most inopportune places, in the workplace, in public, at a funeral. I mean, just completely out of line, yet no one ever keeps them in check because they've got this, charisma, a je ne sais quoi, just oozing with appeal. I mean, it's just, it's just an energy about them. You can, and a psychopath, in my viewpoint from, and working closely, is to understand it's something that they can kind of turn on and turn off. I mean, very much like a smile. And so I can smile or I can relax. But their energy is something that they can put out there and then they can withdraw. And when they put it out there, there's this sort of animation that it can be very salamander-like, which means salamander, or chameleon-like. A chameleon is something that kind of changes its colors to blend into the environment. So a psychopath is very chameleon-like, meaning the energy that they put out there will be fitting just for that specific situation. It's all a ploy, but it's to a degree that most people don't have the ability to. So just think of it this way. If you've ever seen one of those super like weightlifter guys, with the big mullet, and they're like, for some reason, they're always red or tan, and they've always got some weird mustache or facial situation going on, and they get maybe like a neck that's like, 2 feet thick, and then they've got these big muscles. I mean, they're lifting this weight, they're a superpower, and you can like see it. So it's kind of like mentally for a psychopath, they've kind of got like, they're really big and bulked up in this sort of energy, sort of magnetism, if you will. Magnetism. It's really interesting because I feel it really does set them apart from a lot of the rest of the population. Yes, doctor, and someone said it's, people say, well, what is the prevalence? 1 to 4% of the population. So like Dr. Robert Hare says, in a big place like New York, there might be 100,000 individuals in that area who are psychopathic. The more dense people, the more you're going to come across these types of people. But it's to understand that you're dealing with, a cat of a different stripe. I mean, it's just, you have to understand the reality and the severity of what this means, and for you and for society at large. But for your personal matter, you must understand that they have a magnetism about them, which I feel is, is different and more pronounced and more palpable, meaning someone can feel it. It's spongy almost, like you can feel, it's something you can feel, and it, will cause people to turn their heads, what is up with that woman? Or, something we're talking about on the female side. And the problem with this is that they oftentimes go unchallenged. It's a woman, where as if a man were to do some of the predatory stare. So where it's sort of, it's sort of entrancing people. And I say they get people sort of entranced. I think that would be a good way to set them, and as a descriptor. They're very sort of trance-inducing, which means they affect people's the wavelength of their brain. So, I mean, you you know, it's important to understand if this person is how it's affecting you, and it might be very pleasurable in the beginning, in the love bombing stage, but then you're going to see their true colors as time goes on. The fact that you realize that they might be, that hyper arousal, and it's to understand that because they have this sort of voracious need to be driven and just sort of to allure in, that they will pursue their goal without looking back, like with whatever it takes. And in the love bombing stage, it can be very engulfing, which means it just feels like it's swallowing you up. You feel like it is so encapsulating, which is oftentimes in the love bombing, it's very pleasurable, and this is where the addiction can get set up, a dependency for this level of arousal. The female psychopath, they don't really feel feelings. They don't feel like love, nurturing, compassion, empathy, care for you, interest sort of in others, understand, interested about your family, what you've been through, what life's like for you, what you're educated in, what you're interested in. So that sort of empathy situation is not the fan ain't blowing in their engine for the empathy. Okay, it might look like it. They might be very charismatic and magnetic. They might have this way about them, which is, takes you off the hook. You're just, on this new vibe, and it can be like a new drug, that this person is like a drug to people. It will literally alter their mentality, alter their ability to reason, alter their ability to function. They will become like numbed up on a very exquisite drug that the female psychopath makes and sort of uses on their victim. I mean, like a scorpion, you just get stung. You get sort of like it feels like an emotional toxicity, poison, where you're sort of drunk by them. You feel intoxicated or emotionally drunk, like, oh my God, they're, all this stuff, and then people are reeling about it. The female psychopath oftentimes will exhibit high risk or high degree of promiscuity or promiscuous behavior, meaning very flirtatious in very inappropriate times. Why is this happening? Like at the 1-year-old birthday party. Why are we at a barbecue and this is going on? We are at a rehearsal dinner and you're trying to pull this off. Like, and just sort of, boundaries, or, there's a lot of violation energy that is coupled with arousal, which is coupled with sort of sexual overtones, or very heavy sexual overtones, which oftentimes is kind of like, almost like Fang-like, I would say, in their, how, to the degree to which they kind of inoculate their men and their homosexual relationships as well, where you've got this going on. By all means, oh my gosh, yes, and oftentimes very bisexual or asexual. But it's to understand that when you are seeing, when they sort of flip it off, it's because it's to understand that they're turning on is just to get them through a certain period of their life. It's just to offset a boredom. They have this desire, and they have an very sensitive receptor site to dopamine. So, and their it's 5 times more sensitive. So when they really want something, they're like, they're going for it. They seem very driven. So they can be received as very positive. This fearless female, oh my God, did she get it done? She didn't shake a knee. She didn't do this, and so oftentimes it can be this very, great character trait, if you're dealing with some, type of situations where you don't need to have any feelings or any fear, and you can operate on pressure where fear doesn't even come up. You're just not even afraid, or you don't have any attachment. Your favorite pet is run over by a car, and they're just like, yeah, let's pick this up. And did you get a loaf of bread, while you were at the, it's the same tone. And then this can be very shocking when they sort of slip out of character. And when they then turn it off, or because you have to understand that the female psychopath, they kind of rotate between groups, they rotate between partners, they rotate between jobs. They just sort of recycle through things, and they just sort of leave a wake of bystanders, of people who have been shocked, people who have been hurt, negatively affected, their lives made worse, their lives torn apart, their hearts, ripped open, their marriages destroyed, whatever. They will leave you in sort of a smoldering of what happened. Like, I just lost my family. Like, I just spent my child's college savings on this woman. I went into my 401k, and this was supposed to be for my house in the mountains or whatever. Like, you find that you did some things that were very out of character in order to keep this fantasy going. And then when it can turn off, you might see the mask drop, where all of a sudden the color seems to drop from their face. The expression, the musculature changes. They seem to be, all of a sudden, it's like the heat just left the room, and it's about 32 degrees. You're like, oh my God, is this happening? Cognitive dissonance. The energy can go out, and then it can just, so you have to understand that this is how the female psychopath operates, and this is the effect that will have on others. So if you've experienced this, that is the cause that's creating the effect. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and then please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. And please leave your comments, questions. We would love to hear from you. Have a beautiful day. Peace be with you.